What's up, you filthy casuals? Welcome to the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, a podcast all about the irreverent love of gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremiah, and tonight I'm joined by Joel, Dave,
hey,
and James.
What's up?
All right, Joel, that's probably the quickest one. 1.5 seconds into the podcast, and you're already catatonic with laughter. What's going on?
I didn't do anything this time. No jokes from me.
James didn't have time to do anything.
I saw you lift up your LaCroix and put it back down, so this must be serious.
No. My brain filled in the blanks. A podcast all about sick vaping. I don't know. I just heard that.
Why?
Joel, you're broken.
I filled it in as like, oh, that would be funny to say. And then I started laughing because I thought it was funny. My mind sometimes makes its own jokes for me.
That's how most jokes you make happen.
We don't have to get into that now.
Makes me happy.
That's whatever makes you happy. Almost some things that make you happy are good, Joel. Okay, so thank you everybody who watched last week and gave us feedback on the new thing we're doing, Casual Shenanigans Originals, where we make short films or sketches or mini documentary type things, or it could be a variety. Weird things. Thank you to
want
everybody.
to call that feedback? I think everyone was just like,
well, okay, the feedback on the LaCroix ad specifically. If you haven't seen it yet, go to our YouTube channel and watch the LaCroix ad. We actually got a response from LaCroix themselves. We didn't send it to them. Somebody else must have tagged them, or they like searched for it. I didn't hashtag it or anything. And they sent us the Han Solo gif where he's just looking around going, they were like, this is something. Thanks for the love. So LaCroix, the new unofficial sponsors of Casual Shenanigans Gaming. They don't know it yet, but they will be. But yeah, if you don't know what that's all about, go watch last week's episode where we talked about the different things we're doing. But basically, we are going to be spending some of your Patreon money now. We've been saving it up for a while, and we're going to start doing more stuff outside the podcast, the tech podcast, and the casual conversations. We're going to be trying to go more places, film us doing that, like when Joel and I went to check out PlayStation VR at Best Buy, which is actually rapidly becoming one of our most viewed episodes of all time. So thank you to everybody who has watched that and shared it. And we're excited to do more stuff. We've talked about a bunch, but we haven't talked about a lot of it with you guys. You'll hear about it as we do it. But before we dive into the podcast tonight, we want to thank some new Patreon supporters. So Patreon pays for things like the Casual Shenanigans Originals that we talked about last week. It also pays for our podcast hosting, website hosting, our Teamspeak server hosting, all that stuff. There's links to some of that in the description of every podcast. But we have 2 new pledges this week. So Joel, do you have a voice ready for the first one? Or does James
He doesn't
have
come
one
up with his own voices.
Okay.
That's
No,
too
I
easy.
figured James always is coming up with something.
Okay, all right, James. So for the first one, what do you got?
For the first one, Joel, I want you to go Eminem. So I want you to rap this. Thank you.
Okay.
Was that like a pose you were getting into there? What was that?
No, I was just remembering what he sounded like, which it's always going to be, oh no, it's an Eminem.
Eminem. Oh, snap.
This
gonna
looks like a
rap,
job
we're
for
gonna buy
me.
some
Everybody
shit,
up and
yo.
follow me.
Okay. Anyone who want to do a beat for me? James, you want to do a little something for me?
It's a...
Hey, Tekla!
Well, that went about like I was expecting.
What were those words? Just keep
Tekla. No, Tekla's the guy's
No,
name.
that's the name, Tekla.
Yeah.
Or is it him or her? I don't know. Tekla.
Yeah, that's the name. Mm-hmm. That's the
you
name
said
that I was...
I wonder if that's actual the name or is that just the username at all?
Well, yeah, it's probably the
Oh,
username, but...
I mean, you never
All
know.
right. Ready?
Woo. We go to the podcast. We gotta. I can't shut.
All right, Joel, just do a
I
voice.
can't rap at all. Thank you, Tekla.
No,
Oh,
okay,
no.
I got a voice for you then. If you don't want to do that,
What's
then
voice? What's
pretend
that?
like you're ripping a sick cloud as you're talking to him.
Yes.
Just...
No, we got it. We
Okay.
hear it. Yeah, come in and then breathe out and then.
Joel,
Thank you.
the mic is your
This'll
vape.
be-
No,
okay.
the mic is your
Oh, no,
valve.
actually, his phone looks like a mod box, though.
Okay.
But it's going to sound much better coming from the mic.
Hey, Tekla. Thanks for sending them sweet vibes to our podcast. Oh, we appreciate it.
Oh, That was
I think
something.
he's getting a little too much enjoyment out of that vape.
I'm sending that sweet, sick vape cloud your way. Thanks for sponsoring us.
Joel's confusing
Bring some
vapors with
sick content.
Someone please Photoshop.
All right, I think that's probably enough of those.
Someone
Now,
please Photoshop
I
Joel's vape lips with like an actual cloud,
My
please.
vape lips.
I like where
you
Joel sucked in and then swallowed. And then,
Just blew out regular.
it's like
air.
real cookies and cream.
Okay, me and John
Joel-
Caller at work today. He was pretending to blow vape clouds, and I was pretending to suck them back in. So that was our thing today.
Oh, so you've been practicing then. That sounded
All
like
right.
you swallowed an egg though. You were
All
like,
right, so
Our next patron supporter sent us an email. He says, Charlie says, anyways, I just wanted to say thanks for all the laughs. He wrote a little thing about he had a hard time finding where he could send a message. Says, anyways, I just wanted to say thanks for all the laughs and good times. I usually can't make it to the live show, but I've never missed an episode that was published after the fact. I joined in on episode 30, which I specifically remember was an episode on torrenting. Since then, I haven't missed an episode. Listening to your show weekly is really quite great. I always enjoy the personality and quirkiness that you put off in the show. It sounds cheesy, but I really do think that I've gotten to know you guys and Debbie over the years, at least the sides of you that you decide to put out on either the weekly shows or casual conversations, whatever it may be. Sincerely, from the bottom of my Canadian heart, I thank you all. I'm as excited as ever for what's to come. Thank you, Charlie.
speaking of Charlie, can you do a Charlie Kelly voice, Joel?
Yeah, I think so. Calm this shit down! Just calm this shit down! Charlie just freaking gave us some money for our freaking podcast, so just calm the shit down! I'm right here! Get down here! Get down here! Alright? Shut up! Thanks for giving us money, Charlie. Appreciate it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
all right.
Joel has a third voice. Now, without spoiling it too much, there's another different type of video coming probably early next week, right after this podcast posts live, that Joel and I filmed yesterday. Maybe you guys will like it. If you don't, downvote or dislike the video, and we'll take that as a sign. But for now, it is time to start the show like we always do.
You look totally like you just farted. You're like,
It's time to start the show like we always do with the main topic.
main topic time.
Just waiting to see if anyone was going to do something. So our main topic this evening is about your age when you're gaming. Now, there's probably a lot of opinions about this, but we've all seen an article written by somebody online or an opinion voiced by somebody that gaming is something that like grown-ups don't do, or it's especially something that grown-up men aren't supposed to do. Because I actually, even just this week before you suggested this this topic, I saw another article on like what's wrong with the young men in America today, and of course one of the problems they ended up at was video games. Like there was some other small stuff, but then they definitely ended up at people throwing away their. They even stretch it to like getting lost in this virtual war of blah blah blah, talking about Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto, the only two games that quasi journalists know anything about. But so that kind of, I've been thinking about that, and James suggested this topic of when should you stop gaming? If you should, is there an age, a maturity level, a life event, or whatever that says this is when gaming is over, at least as a major hobby? I mean, almost everybody plays games in one form or another, whether it's little games on their phone, Tetris, stuff like that, to all the way up to hardcore gamers. So is there a point where you should stop gaming, or is there a public perception about it that doesn't have any merit and is maybe misconstrued? So what do you guys think? Let's just open the floor to discussion.
I think I'd probably first say I don't think there is I don't think there's actually a definite of when you should stop. I don't know. To me, in my opinion, I don't think that's actually really the problem of when you should stop. I think it's more of when you should stop if it, like, how to explain this? Basically just like, I think it pertains to a lot of different things, not just gaming, but to just hobbies in general, things that maybe don't actually result in any kind of forwarding your life, maybe, So let's say it's just playing games only on your own, and you don't do anything else. You don't hang out with friends. You don't do anything else. You're literally just consuming entertainment. Same with just watching TV shows. You know, you're not with anyone else. You're only by yourself. I think to a massive degree, as you're getting older, if you know, most of the time you have more responsibilities as you get older, because, you know, you move out, you have to have your own job. You have to pay for your own power, your own house, your rent, all that kind of stuff. I think it can easily become this thing that just consumes you and becomes an addiction where you are kind of limiting yourself to what you could be doing, you know, because if it's only a source of entertainment, obviously there's some people that play it as their life. I mean, like in the sense of like pro sports, and they're making, you know, they're earning money from it. That's their, you know, that's their job. You know what I mean? So that it's that might not be exactly their entertainment. It might actually be their sport. It's their, you know, career. But I think for a lot of people, it is just mostly pure entertainment, and it's, you know, it's socializing stuff. But I think there's a limit. I mean, especially, I mean, me just growing up, I mean, I turned 30 in October, and now anytime
That's probably blowing a lot of people's minds listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, Joel is 30?
Yeah. Anytime now that when I see open world games, just open world, or, you know, or randomized worlds, I go, I don't know. Like outside of maybe just the Fallout and Skyrim like games right now, even if the game is amazing, it's going to take an insane amount of convincing for me to want to play it, no matter if it's good, just because I'm like, I don't know if I have enough time to squeeze in another game that's like that. Like I have my core games now. I almost feel like it's, and essentially my core friends, like through college, you know, you have maybe a lot of friends or maybe dinner or something like that. But let's say you just know a lot of people, a lot of acquaintances. That's what I would say. I have a lot of acquaintances, but not a lot of really close, true friends. I started kind of letting some of those acquaintances go, like not in a bad way, but just like, I don't have time, you know, because you would get invited to this event or they would want to do this, and it's like, I really wanted to be able to spend time with my really good friends that I, you know, really, really cared about, and they cared about me, and vice versa. And that's kind of how I feel a little bit more about games now, where it's like the games I really care about, I want to be able to still save room for them. But the more, you know, the older you get in life and the more things you want to do, I've played so many hours of games, it is slowing down for me, where I just want to play the games that I'm instantly really into, and then I can be done. But I want to take on games I know I can finish, that I know are attainable to finish. As like if a game says, "Oh, it's 800 hours," nope, I don't care. Like I don't like just even dabbling in those games, because it's like I don't really like playing even 20 hours, even if it's a good game. I don't want to play 20 hours. I do want to finish it, but I just usually don't even jump into those games anymore now. I like to jump into a game that I can feel like I can actually finish and then be satisfied, and then like, oh, I'll play another game the next time something else comes out. But I feel like you could easily really waste your time if it's only purely entertainment, and you start, you know, disappearing from family, and that's all you do. And then you don't do anything else. Because I think so many people have such amazing talents for a lot of things that I think they can easily squander that, because games can be so fun, so instant gratifying, of, you know, instant action. I grew up on games, so I can understand that. But I think it can be a very deep, dark pit that you can get into if you're not careful. And I think it's the same thing with so many things, from even just like over binging for eating or going out or partying or something like that. It's like, I always like being able to do something or outside of it, and, you know, attain a goal or be challenged or something like that. So,
But how should that change though with age versus more cultural acceptability? Like if you, I mean, it's different if, you know, you say you have kids and you have more responsibility, or you're taking classes or something, or you want to work towards something. I mean, that's more about a work-life balance than it is about cultural acceptance.
yeah.
And when I was thinking about the topic, I was thinking, when, you know, people look at gamers that are, you know, in high school, it's not a thing to think, oh, he's playing Call of Duty. That's not a big deal to think about. Even in college, you know, you think, oh, he's playing Call of Duty in his dorm, or, you know, Halo or whatever. It's when you start getting out of college and start getting like closer to 30 is when people start looking at it like, oh, that guy's a gamer. Okay, cool. You know, and is that, I don't know if it gets any different in 40s or 50s or whatever. And part of it is that, you know, we haven't had gaming that long, like hardcore gaming, other than like Pong and stuff like that. So, you know, this is kind of a new generation of people that have had game systems probably their entire life. And so they'll be the first ones to kind of grow up with that being such a big part of their personal culture. When they get to a certain age, I think it starts to get more and more and more frowned upon. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not something, you know, you can talk about at work necessarily.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, James, like, do you have anybody you talk with over the lunch table about the games you're playing over the weekend, or most of the people you work with, would they look down on that?
I just sit in my car.
Sports. Oh,
you just sit in my car and cry.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
James is probably actually telling the truth right now. Like, this is his cry. His cry.
No. My lunchtime is mostly dedicated to my introverted pursuit because I'm around people all day long.
Yeah.
That's like my little bit of time to not be around people. But there are very, very few people that I've talked about games with at work because most of them are older. Yeah, there are very few people that even in my age range play games.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dave. I have a decent bit to say, so I'll let you go first.
I just had a slight aside that I kind of got a friends group that it's hard for me to think of people who don't play games in my even my extended friend group. So when I run into somebody who is not up to date on, you know, current gaming anything, it's actually kind of a shock to me that you know, people my age don't play games, because I'm kind of part of the generation that grew up where it's like it was just part of the entertainment. You had reading, you had TV and movies, and you had games, and everyone still watches TV and goes to see movies their whole life. And for me, it's weird that like some people consider that there's like an age stop point where it's like, oh yeah, I don't play games anymore. Like, I had an Xbox 360, you know, in college, and then stuff like that. And I don't play games anymore. I'm like, oh, like, I don't think the games got any worse. Like, far from it. It's just interesting to me that for some people there was kind of a shift there in their interest. I think a lot of times it has to do with time, where even TV can be something that's easier to just pick up and put down. Mm-hmm. Whereas games require a bit more dedication. You have to kind of keep up to date with the news. You have to have a system if you're playing, you know, console games or PC games. You have to kind of be in the loop. Whereas, you know, TV and movies, you can just kind of see what's the latest trailer or see what everyone's watching on Netflix. So it's easier to, if you're tuned out for a while, come back to TV and movies. Whereas if you're out of games for like 5 years, like you got married, you moved, you changed jobs, I can kind of see where time-wise it would be hard to get back to that.
I think it's also different to talk about TV shows and movies at work with people. I mean, obviously people generally watch TVs and movies their entire life. I mean, they might watch less for a period of time, but it's not something that is ever looked upon differently. So when you talk about a TV show with somebody else, it's just like, oh yeah, man, I saw the show. Maybe they saw it, maybe they didn't. But if they didn't, you can still say, oh, you should check it out. But you don't say, oh man, I was playing, you know, The Witcher. They're like, what's a Witcher? They're like, oh no, you should totally check it out. You know, it's an open world RPG, but the story is so rich and blah blah blah. And it's like, you know,
James, I could totally see that being the conversation that I would have. It'd be like, you gotta check out The Witcher 3. Now, what you want to do is build a $2,000 computer for max graphics. You want a 1440p screen. You've got 7 novels to read, okay? 2 previous games to play. And go ahead and dive in, put about 250 hours into it. You'll really enjoy it.
I think it's easy to, like you were saying, you know, Dave, that you don't necessarily, because you have a group of friends that plays games, you don't necessarily notice the ones that don't.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty narrowly focused group of people compared to the at-large in this age range.
Yeah.
I imagine. I mean, of course, you know, a lot of people still play games, but it's such a small percentage of the population at large that, you know, if we dropped you in just another city and you had to just make new friends, you might have a harder time finding people that share that interest with you. It might take you, you know, a little while to finally meet people without going to the niche, without going to, you know, like even like a, you know, you can even go to a GameStop and meet people that game because they're there to buy games.
You can go to GameStop and meet some console gamers.
Well, yeah. Or you can go, I mean, you can even go to like, I mean, or you can go to like a board game store.
Well, I mean, to Dave's point really quick, there isn't like an easy place to go meet PC gamers. Like, I kind of wish there was. It's easy to go to a GameStop and you can talk about, if you want to talk about like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and Halo and like all the big stuff, there aren't many places you can easily go to and talk to like pretty nerdy video gamers. You might get lucky at a GameStop or a Best Buy gaming section or something. But
I think you'd actually be surprised.
I've been to those places hundreds of times.
And apparently don't talk with people, I guess, but like almost everybody
as little as
I've ever
possible
talked
when
with,
I'm in Best Buy.
Well, that's probably why. But like if you talk with people who buy games at GameStop, almost everybody has played PC games or has like both. It's only like the little kids that will come in with their parents that have wouldn't know what you're talking about when it comes to PC games.
It's not that they wouldn't. I mean, it's not about not knowing what they're talking about. I mean, you can say a graphics card to somebody that doesn't play games on their PC and they know what you're talking about, but they don't play on that predominantly. Mm-hmm. And I have talked to a lot of people who not just go in there, but people that work there, and they're mostly playing on consoles.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's a reason why the PC section at GameStop is like this big. It's like one single sliver of a wall with a few Steam cards and stuff like that.
It's ahead of the curve. It's all digital now. Like that's the console section of GameStop.
Right, but
it
was never a big section.
No, it wasn't.
At GameStop. Like before, it was like this big.
I used to go to plenty. There was like they had their own wall. It was about the size of like the PS2 section. That's when I bought my my Half-Life 2 Game of the Year edition. It was like in a pretty decent sized PC section at GameStop, but it got smaller and smaller every year. That was probably 2006 when I bought it, so that would have been right when Steam was taking off. So that was, and then I remember in Walmart it used to be huge back when the PC boxes were like, you know, this big for PC games, and most of it was just totally wasted space. You had like your 500-page manual because they used to include those, and your CD-ROM and everything, and then but the boxes were massive, and the PC gaming section in Walmart used to be as big as the console sections. But of course, then they got the smaller boxes and then went digital and got smaller and smaller. I think Walmart has the biggest PC gaming section of any store I've been to recently, just because they're still selling like Age of Empires 2 and World of Warcraft boxes.
I don't know. Staples has a pretty big section of
really
$10 machines and
vending machine tycoon.
Just aside, Jeremiah, do you remember when GameStop had like joystick selections and stuff in like 2006? Still back then?
No,
you ever had that?
I didn't have a gaming PC in 2006.
Oh, okay. Joel, you might remember this. Like GameStop used to carry like multiple kinds of accessories for PCs, like all the different joysticks and stuff like that. But anyway.
So we got off into the weeds a little bit about the stigma. I think there definitely is one. That's actually something I hadn't really realized how much I've been thinking about that until James suggested the topic. And I've been thinking about it this week. I'm like, oh, this is really right. So my family found my YouTube channel after like 5 years. I think my brother like knew my Skype name. We're friends on Skype because that's what we use when we play Age of Empires. And and he was looking for some video he thought I uploaded a long time ago, like of him doing something, like, so it wouldn't have even been on my gaming channel. So he searched for my Skype name because he thought that might be my name and found it. And then, of course, busted out laughing, called my mom, who called each of my siblings in turn, and it just kind of snowballed the whole thing. And, 5 years, they finally found me. But I was thinking about, like, why didn't I want to tell them? And I think it was because, like, when I got out of college, when I was in college, I'll back up. When it was before college, like the 2 years before college, I was working almost full time. I was going to community college. I was finishing up high school. I was just slammed busy all the time. I was in a couple bands. Like, I played music all the time, played video games, worked outside, did all this stuff. And I was a hard worker. I was doing good in school, all that stuff. Then I go to college and I'm working hard in school, doing good in my classes, still playing video games a ton, but I'm in college. I'm doing good in all my classes. I'm a hard worker, no big deal. I work on all my winter and summer breaks, doing great. As soon as we get out of school, for the first year or so, I still feel like we're pretty much living like we're in college. Like, we come home from work and make pasta and sit on our hand-me-down furniture and watch Battlestar Galactica and like, this is good.
The life.
And, I still kind of feel like I'm basically a college student. That's what it feels like, age-wise, maturity-wise. So then we decided we wanted to get out of debt as quick as we could. We wanted to pay off student loans. So then, like, the whole focus was on working as much as possible. Like, work, sell everything you don't need. That's when I started really getting into photography, like doing wedding photography, got a website, started getting clients, stuff like that. And I was pretty sure I was going to be a wedding photographer. Like, I really felt drawn to being a wedding photographer. So still super busy, definitely a gamer. That's when I started my YouTube channel. And I loved it. I enjoy it. And, everything's great, but I'm still a hard worker. And then we got out of debt. We moved into the camper, paid off our debt, got out of debt, moved out of the camper. And then we were like, okay, now we just paid off our student loans, just moved out of the camper. So it felt like, okay, now we're just trying to rebuild from that. We're trying to build up a little bit of savings, maybe learn what retirement savings are, how we should do those, do all that stuff. And now, after we've been married almost 6 years, it'll be 6 years in a couple days. And I don't want to be a wedding photographer anymore. This weekend is my last wedding. And then I'm done, unless I fill in for a friend or something. But this is my last wedding. So that was like a whole
reboot.
That was a whole career path.
Retired.
That's what most people know me by. A lot of people from like back home, they know me as a wedding photographer, not as a graphic designer, because that's not as public facing. So people are always asking me, how are the photos going? How's the wedding photography business going? And I tell people, oh, actually, I'm getting out of the wedding photography business.
It's shut down.
You shouldn't say that. You should just say I went out of business.
No, I don't want to say that because people because people have always been like, oh, that's great. I was hoping you'd start your own business. That's so good for you. Good for you. Good for you. And now I'm telling people like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. And I think for a lot of people, it's a very foreign concept of like, I'm just ending this career path because I don't want to. Because I'm in a very fortunate position. I can end it because I don't want to do it, not because I have no choice. So I'm not like under any delusions that I'm in a very fortunate position here. But so I'm just focusing on graphic design now. And I was thinking like how are my parents going to feel about this? Like, they know I'm basically shutting down one whole side of my business that was going really well. Like, it was doing great. Probably could be a full-time wedding photographer if that was like my main focus, but I that's not how I want to spend my time. That's not how I want to spend my life. I'm not as career focused as I used to be. Like, I want to have a good career. I want to, make enough money to support myself, support our family. But beyond that, like, I'm trying to figure how does gaming fit into having a relaxing, mature adult life? And from the outside, I can see why people would have a stigma about it. From the outside, it could, like, I feel like I'm a hard worker and I've accomplished,
right,
at least at an average pace for my age. But from the outside, it could look like, oh, well, they moved into their friend's basement.
I was going to say, you're literally broadcasting from a basement right now.
So they moved into their friend's basement, and he shut down his wedding photography business, and he just does like some design work on the side, and has a YouTube channel, like doing what exactly? Like, it was just a foreign concept. They're like, people get paid for putting stuff on YouTube. And I explained like who PewDiePie was and how he makes more money than their entire family line ever has for screaming into a microphone for 10-year-olds. And like, that was a foreign concept. So I can totally see how there's a stigma from the outside, because like, I feel like I've done okay for myself in life, but it would be very easy to look at me and think like, oh, he's given up. Oh, he just plays games now, plays games and gets by with his little graphic design jobs. So like, think how bad it could look for somebody who maybe like just graduated high school from the outside. Think what that stigma, why people would judge people that way. Because maybe it looks like gaming is the only way they spend their time or the only thing they want to do. Where in reality, like what is the saying? You should never compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You don't normally know people as well as you might think you do based on their Facebook and Twitter history and based on the few times you actually see them in person, which these days I think it's based a lot more off Facebook and Twitter. How you get impressions of people. But like, you don't know why somebody might still live at home. You don't know why they might have one job or another. You don't know what job they might have that you don't even know about. You don't know what hobbies they might be into that have nothing to do with gaming. You only know the stuff that they tell you about, or the stuff that's super obvious, or the stuff that, you know, sticks out. And I think gaming's one of those things that sticks out as a kind of juvenile activity, even though like, I don't think it's any more juvenile than fantasy sports. Like, if you want to take a detour there.
Yeah.
But,
Sure. Yeah.
But the thing is, there's not a stigma with that, because there aren't very many people who still live in their mom's basement at the age of 30 and just want to play fantasy sports all day. Like, the stigma is there, I think, because people do that for one reason or another. And I think there's much fewer people are actually just total degenerate, lazy sacks of crap who just want to play video games all day. I think that's like a much smaller percentage of people than the perception. But I can see why the perception's there, because I think enough people do stuff like that, or that from the outside it looks like that yeah, maybe it does look immature. I mean, I don't want to stop gaming. I love gaming. I love doing stuff for the YouTube channel. I love playing stuff with you guys. Like, gaming for me is a way to hang out with most of my friends. It's a way to express myself creatively. It's a way to do all kinds of awesome things, but it's not my only hobby. It just might be the one that's the most public facing. And
that's a really interesting point, Jeremiah. I hadn't even thought about it like that, that in a world where, like, you know, long distance connections and friendships are maintained over Facebook, if you play games and like you're liking gaming articles and stuff like that, that's a very outward facing, like, oh, he plays games still. Like, well, they don't see all the other stuff you do, like the working out and the, what else do you do? Something about cars and crap.
Yeah. But so Dave, from your perspective then, if somebody goes into your house, they're going to see video game posters signed by developers. How nerdy could that possibly be?
Yeah, they will.
You have your own fantasy swords from your
they've known Dave
Witcher
for
game.
Very long. I mean, that's not going to be that shocking.
Like, Dave's office, if for the fact it wasn't in like a standalone house, his office could very much look like the man lair, where it's
I've got my esports ID cards, Team USA, esports,
almost as good as an Olympic medal.
Almost.
So almost, but then what people might not know, because you don't really post about this that much, they may not know that you're a massive train nerd, which is way worse than liking video games.
Man, now that's out there.
You're a really well-read history buff, and you're really into certain types of governmental history, not into the government per se, but certain types of
I'm really into government.
but
the lamest hobby ever.
But like governmental history and the history of the country, you know, like you're super into that, and you're really smart about that. You're really well read. You love reading books of all kinds of stuff, but you don't really talk about that much. Like, you're a really well-rounded individual, but if somebody just walked into your office and looked around, they would think like, oh, he's a huge nerd.
He's got two monitors.
Who thinks the government's coming to take his guns or something. And then like Joel, obviously the people's public perception of Joel will vary wildly based on how they first met him. My first exposure with Joel was his Dirty Homeless Planet satire documentary about global warming, where I watched it the whole time thinking, what is wrong with him? Like, is there actually something wrong with him? And then the first time I met you in person, Joel, first two things I thought were, oh, he's pretty small. Second thing was, oh, he's pretty normal. Like, Joel, because Joel's a super.
Oh, I was so wrong.
Well, Joel's a very humble person, unless you ask him about his movie, and then just like your afternoon is shot. But like, he's a very humble person. He doesn't talk about all the different projects he's worked on and all the different cool things he's been a part of and all the hard work he does on that. He just doesn't like force that out in the open down people's throats. Well, he's doing like a movie Kickstarter. That's a little different. But Joel could easily look like, oh, he's that nerdy guy who wears Star Wars t-shirts everywhere and who, doesn't really care about insert most of the things that the kids care about these days. And like from the outside, Joel could definitely look like that guy who's just stuck in this perpetual adolescence, whatever, because if people don't get to know you, how would they know the difference? Because you're not like sticking yourself in other people's business being like, let's talk about adult thing. Well, you talk about adult things plenty, but not
Joel
not on adult
things
fashion.
too.
Yeah, but like
costumes.
you're a much more well-rounded individual than people might guess based on like a 5-second snippet. I think James is the most outwardly mature adult-like of any of us.
And yet I have the biggest cartoon collection.
And James, how many little toy figures are above your desk right now?
Maybe 20.
Yeah. So James outwardly looks probably the most responsible. I think having kids kind of tempers your attitude a little bit, like your outward facing attitude.
It
like
weakens the spirit, destroys the soul, till there's nothing left.
Destroys the bank account.
I was a kid
But
once until
only
they
the
came
love
along.
for them.
But yeah, but James is still at heart. James likes tons of deep topics. Like James is a very well-rounded, very well-read individual. Can talk about really, really interesting things to a deep level that I certainly can't. And he can talk about it for a really long time. Or he can show you his toy collection or collectible Funko Pop figurines, whatever you want to call them. But, so like it's very easy. Yeah, I know, Dave. Is that General Dave? Is that General Dave Jr.?
What's he sitting on, Dave?
All my stuff from the back of my desk is like in a pile behind my keyboard because I had to move the desk back and it just all fell and it's in a pile.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that other than to say, like, I think it's very easy to judge people on a very small snippet. I think that's where the whole neckbeard gamers who don't leave their mom's basement thing comes from. Because there are definitely people who might seem like they're that way, but I think there are very few people who are actually like that. What do you guys think?
It's weird because I think part of the stigma of gaming is that you're not making real life memories.
Right.
Like you might look back on an experience that you had in a game and really think fondly of it, but you can't talk about it with a random person like they can the time they went on a vacation somewhere.
Yeah.
Not that I would ever give up a vacation for a game, but
I mean, we did get up very early at the beach one year and drive to go buy Grand Theft Auto and then sit in full view of the Atlantic Ocean as the sun was coming up over the hills while we were playing Grand Theft Auto. So I mean,
Close
like,
the blinds. I can't see the intro.
I don't know. I think this last beach vacation was quite ridiculous with the 10 different TVs all lined up across the room with a beautiful view of the sound. That was kind of on the ridiculous side, but
it was a little on the ridiculous side, yeah.
But my point being that, it's not that, I'm not out doing stuff too and, taking road trips or whatever. It's just that, when we talk about our form of entertainment, someone can say, I spent 6 hours binge watching something on Netflix. And that's like perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are actually to some degree impressed that, oh wow, you pushed through that season really fast.
Powered through it. Good work.
Man, I sit and play. What'd you do this week? Oh, well, I sit and played Witcher for 6 hours straight.
Yeah.
They're like,
it's like, ugh. what's wrong with you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's so weird. It's neither one of those things technically have any kind of real life value, but I don't know. It's a silly stigma, but it's still there.
Even though it's still there, I think the stigma has already decreased in just the last decade. It's still definitely there, but it's decreased. And I think in our generation's time, excluding you, James, Papa James, I think we're going to see video games come close to the acceptance that binge watching Netflix has. It's going to become pretty normal. I think as gaming moves into more accessible platforms where you can take 5 years and just play mobile games or your Nintendo throwback console, you'll have more people that'll get back into the heavier, bigger AAA games again eventually. So I think there will come a time when the stigma is less. I don't think it's going to ever go away, which is interesting. I just don't see that happening, but I think it's going to get less.
So to kind of pull the topic back towards the original question.
Well, I think Joel had something to add on to that.
Go ahead.
I mean,
Joel.
I have a decent amount to say about even just from growing up. I mean, my parents, I was really not allowed ever to play video games. Because from their perspective, and honestly, I can see it now, even just from being older, just understanding, from seeing other friends of mine that honestly are way too addicted to stuff like that really have quietly ruined their lives. But they didn't really care about too much about the violence of games. Like that was never really the problem. It was more so they just knew we would be addicted to it. We would just really want to play it. And heck yes, I always wanted to play games because I think in the generation that I grew up, things really started to change around, especially in neighborhoods where we weren't allowed to go as far. We weren't allowed to hang out. A lot of our friends weren't allowed to do that as much. Where I grew up hearing stories from my mom and dad of how they were allowed to bike in neighborhood to neighborhood and they could stay over at their friend's house and, hey mom, I'll be over here and we're going to have dinner with the Smiths or whatever. And that was just how it was. But, I grew up, it was more leery of your neighbors. It was much more like that. It wasn't just, hey, have fun. We'll see you, come back by 10 o'clock. It was very check in, make sure you can be seen within the house and stuff. But obviously I love making films and, I love games and stuff like that. So I've done a lot of stuff on computers. And for a long period of time, my dad he had no understanding of why I enjoyed working on computers or making videos or creating things on that. Because it was essentially, no matter how many hours I made it, it was still on the computer. It didn't amount to anything, I guess, quotation marks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it didn't. And I can understand that from a certain point, but obviously that has become something that has eventually created who I am now, that I edit videos, I make movies, and that's what I 100% want to do with my life. But I think something that's really important, I actually had a chat with my mom probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I guess, no, maybe about 7 years. I guess right when I got married, actually, like the year after. Because for a very long time, she would, when you talked about video games, it was, she wouldn't be like angry at you, but you would just kind of like, it was like she would hope that you would do something more with your life, right? Or like, do something different, right?
Thanks, Mom.
I'm not angry, just disappointed.
No, I mean, I mean, like, it was an interesting chat. So I came over one night and I had a long chat with her, and she was telling me all about how they watched Survivor and how they watched all these shows. And my dad and mom, they love watching shows and they just watch lots of it, right? I wouldn't say it's like an insane amount, but I'd say a normal amount, right? And I told him, I was like, with games, like outside of shows, like, unless you're dialoguing with each other, or you're laughing together, you're kind of like picking out stuff, you're actually interacting together. I was like, Joy and I, we both enjoy playing games together. We're actively doing stuff together. We're solving puzzles. We're using our brain. As a TV shows, most of the time you use none of your brain other than just to watch and laugh, outside of maybe some, some shows that are like really get you thinking or something, or documentaries and stuff. But I was like, there's no difference there at all. And so for me, I would feel like I am kind of throwing away my life, or a little bit like wasting time, where I feel like there's some things I want to do that I'm not doing because I'm just playing games and I enjoy it. But in the back of my mind, I want to do other. I would feel bad if it wasn't for the fact that I'm like always wanting to like push myself to try new things, to go do on challenges, to make a movie, to spend ungodly amount of hours working on projects, writing stories, designing things, making posters, making videos with friends, going outside, crazy, you know what I mean? I think it's very wise for people to have an introspective look of going, what am I doing? Is there stuff I want to do? And am I balancing? Do I have a good balance of what I'm doing? Because I think it'd be very wise if you know someone that's literally all they do. They're not playing MLG sports. They're not making money from it. They are just doing that and barely making ends meet, And let's say they don't even have a lot of friends. That's just what they do. They're into it. I think that would be a little unhealthy. That it'd be like, hey, try getting out there. See what else you're good at too. I think as like if I had a kid and it was thinking, like from watching YouTube videos, Joy's nieces, they watch a lot of YouTube videos. They watch one called Preston Plays. I've never heard it before, but anyways, they watched this one all about Minecraft and stuff. And I always thought, if that was my kid and they said, "Oh, I want to make YouTube videos. That's what I want to do with my life," right? I was thinking, how would I react to that? Because I don't think that YouTube is in the same frame of like the lottery where it is just straight up luck, like something you might go viral and then all of a sudden you're a hit, I think there's a lot of talent to it, and you can really make it big. But I think I equate it to making a film. There's a crap ton of people who want to make films. But unless you're really careful and I think you do a good job and you know what you're doing and you spend a lot of hard work doing it, I mean, it's honestly, it is a huge gamble that I would suggest, do that, think of it as a hobby, but do make sure to have a little bit of a backup of something like, earn money on the side, see how it goes, but be able to have the wisdom to understand, is this going to go anywhere? Or am I actually, wasting a little bit more of my time where, I think my talents could be used better somewhere else. Because I think there is possibly in this generation of thinking, oh, if I just make more videos, I'm just going to suddenly get, lucky and I'm just going to make $1 billion, I feel like it's going to almost turn a little bit into that, like, scratch card, just one more and I'll get it, one more, I'll get it. Where I think that can consume them where they don't have a legitimate understanding of, I don't know, like when to limit themselves where, hey, this is a great thing. This is turning out really well. I understand I can actually make money from this. I enjoy it. I'm doing a certain healthy amount of it. And then
one day you make a Fallout settlement and realize you've wasted all your time before this.
But yeah, like, I mean, now my mom, like, she has no problem with games. She doesn't really understand it, but I could tell you right now, if I called her right now and say, hey mom, do you want to come over and play some Mario with me? She'd be over here in 15 minutes, like instantly with a fresh popcorn and everything, handmade. She's totally fine with it because she definitely has a different outlook on it because she's like, oh yeah, you're right. People are watching like 50 hours of shows. I don't watch 50 hours of shows.
Yeah.
I watch honestly a very small amount. I enjoy it whatever I can, but for me, gaming is that part of entertainment to me. As other people would watch only TV, gaming is my entertainment because I find sometimes better stories in it, and I feel like I can control it. I can get stress out in many ways from playing games, and it's something that Joy enjoys that we can play together, and it gets us talking, and we're always talking about stuff. So I don't know. That's kind of my opinion.
Wait, that's what gets you talking?
No, I'm
should be
just
talking
saying.
in general.
I'm saying as
I'm just
opposed to
kidding.
sometimes just going and just watching a movie maybe that
Right.
like that's why I really enjoy Mystery Science Theater.
It can
Riff
still
Tracks.
be a social experience.
Yeah, exactly. Where I think sometimes they think, oh, you're just playing games and wasting. I'm like, actually, like you play brain teasers and stuff. You're actually doing a lot for your brain. Like, surgery. I think surgeons, they like people who play video games are better surgeons because they have higher. I'm about to say refresh rate. That's not the right word, but like
reflexes.
They can better reflexes than people who don't play games.
And it's funny, Joel, listening to your story about trying to get your mom to understand video games. I'm almost there with my parents. I had the same thing growing up. I had 1.5 hours of video games per day, unless it's the weekend, then I get 2.5 hours, stuff like that. Now, I work in IT, and back in April, I won that Fallout computer for making the settlement. I had the most hilarious conversation. I was visiting my parents and trying to explain how I won a computer. Like, that's really cool. So how? What did you do? I was like, there's a game.
Did you do a raffle, son?
I was like, there's a game where it's after the apocalypse, but you can build towns. I was like, man, like there's no way, like you'd be like into this thing to understand it in certain ways. It was just a hilarious conversation. I just finally showed them like a time lapse and thought that was kind of neat. It's like, I didn't know you could do stuff like that. So I think that's part of it for me. Looking at how I think the stigma won't ever totally go away. I think part of it's just because you do have to be kind of into parts of it to 100% get it, and to kind of equate it with this, like you said, is an active thing that is done. If you're building things in Fallout or solving puzzles in Portal together, your brain's a lot more active than if you're just watching a show. Even though I do enjoy certain shows for sure, that there's actually like a little bit more value there in stuff like certain games.
I had a question, then another thought. So the what if scenario, how would you handle if your parents all of a sudden just started talking about gaming, like hardcore, like people in that age group?
I'd be like,
We're just
Dad's
like-
getting back into computers. Because he was into them when he got our first like consumer home computer in 95 or whatever. He got like Star Wars, Rogue Assault, Rebel Assault, and Flight Simulator. Like he played a little bit of that, played Battle Chess. We were really into Battle Chess, as you know.
Oh, there it is.
That extreme
nerd.
fiting game, nerd.
He had like a handful of games.
Stigma.
But then probably in the early 2000s is when, it went from where like a regular home PC couldn't really run games without a dedicated graphics card. And that's when he kind of fell out of it. And then
Voodoo.
his computer died not died. It was just too old. It was like 9 years old. And then he got a Mac, which really kind of shut down his gaming options. And now like, it's just not something that's interesting anymore. Like he moved away from it kind of naturally. Yeah, man, if he got super into it, I'd be like, first, we need to do something about the horrible speakers in your TV because you are not gaming on
Here
this
we go.
nonsense.
Okay, we know how you would
And
handle
that's
it.
when he stops forever.
Yeah,
and never
that's why
calls you
Dad would be
again.
like, oh, I'm fine with them. Thanks, son. See you when you come home next time. Bye.
But seeing someone like in their 50s,
Yeah.
like you expect to be, just far along in their career, maybe managers or whatever, and you see them talking about playing video games with another person that age.
Mm-hmm.
Does that give you a double take first?
It does a little bit, yeah.
So what about like when they start getting their 60s and 70s?
Well,
People that are just you can tell that they're really old just by the amount of wrinkles in their skin and stuff, white hair, talking about pissing around in GTA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you see that? You're like, oh, that's really weird. Even you as a gamer thinking about someone that old being into a game that's, I guess, culturally supposed to be for younger people.
yeah, I mean, GTA is made for 12-year-olds. Everyone knows. I think I would think it was a little bit odd, not weird like in an inappropriate sense, but odd in a you just don't see it that much. Like I think after a few minutes, I think it was really cool. There's that one woman on YouTube, Shirley Curry. I think she's in her 80s. She plays Skyrim. She does a Let's Play. She probably has 200 and something episodes of Skyrim up.
She's good at
That's gonna
Skyrim
be
too.
Debbie.
Yeah, she's good at Skyrim, and I like that she said, I've watched some interview with her, and she says she loves it because she likes to pick the flowers and she likes solving puzzles and it keeps her mind active and all this stuff. And watching her play, like she likes gaming, like she just enjoys gaming. And it's funny because apparently, like she never played a game. I think till she was like 80 or something. Like she really had never played video games, so you never really know what you're going to be into. And I think a lot of people would probably enjoy. There's probably a game out there for almost everybody. They just may not know it. And their perception of it might just be there's Grand Theft Auto, there's Call of Duty, there's FIFA, there's, Madden, there's the big tentpole games. But especially like with indie gaming now, man, there's a game for like pretty much everything you could think of. There's something you might be interested in.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
But but I guess we look at it as like, oh, the Wii is geared towards older folks because they can get into, the really easy controls. But we're going to be there one day, hopefully. Hopefully we all live to be old.
Oh, well, no, James, you can be happy. You're already there. You made it.
But no, I mean, we're 20 years time, we're going to be older. We're going to be a lot older, and it's not going to be like we're talking about like getting together and watching E3 together. We're going to be, some of us may have a grandkid by then. If you guys, any of y'all have kids.
One of us maybe.
I'll do it for all of us. So that was just a thought. I'm not worried about it now, but I probably won't be worried about that either. That's the benefit of being introverted, is that you don't really have to care because you can just go home and shut the world out.
James, I'm curious. What would you actually be worried about? Like if, let's say, 25 years from now, and you do want to play, what would you be worried about? Because I mean,
no, not worried about it. I'm worried about talking about it with people.
oh,
Not any really. I generally don't care,
Well,
but
I think there's something there. Like, so it doesn't matter what you wear. What you wear does not define you. Except if you need to be in a situation where you need people to take you seriously and you need to come across as a professional who can handle their stuff, what you wear does matter. Like, the way you present yourself to other people says a lot about how serious you are. Not like the particular brand you wear, but you know what I'm saying? Like, looking like you can hold yourself together as an adult who's competent, who's in charge of stuff, like, that actually does matter. Stuff like the language you use matters. Certain situations it may be appropriate, other situations it may be less appropriate. So if talking about gaming in certain situations is going to erode whatever perception you need to portray of, like, if depending on the situation you're in, if that's going to make people think you are incapable of being an adult or something, then there is a little bit to be worried about there, because you don't know how other people are going to take it. And you don't know, like, if your direct supervisor is going to be like, oh, James, well, he can't be, I mean, I guess he's okay or whatever, but he's a gamer.
He's not really career-minded. He's
right, because he's
still immature. He's not ready
into comic books and video games and stuff. And, like, this might be a guy who's got, like, NFL Sunday ticket and watches 5,000 hours of football every year, because that's normal. And there's nothing wrong with football either. But, yeah, I think there could be a little bit of a stigma where you're worried about.
Can
I just calm? Let me just calm everyone down. All right, there's no fear. In 25 years, everyone will be freaking playing Pokemon in VR. They'll be like interviews. They'll be like, they'll be swiping on your phones as you're trying to be like, yeah, well, I'm good at this and I can do this, and they're like, I don't care, I just caught a Pidgey.
It's not a fear, Joel. It's a just being. Slightly cautious exactly with the way you present yourself. Like,
I'm more afraid that no one's going to care much about that anymore, as going more of the opposite.
Well, it's funny because I feel like you could be out with a group of people, like, catching Pokemon together. Like, oh, I just caught this, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, man, that reminds me of that time that I was playing, I don't know, pick a game, Shadow Colossus. They're like, oh, you're a gamer? Like, you'd be staying on doing, like, the nerdiest thing ever.
Because, I mean, we are the generation that's going to be hiring people at some point. You know what I mean? Someone offered a really good piece of advice, even for filmmaking stuff with Norman. We're looking around for producers and distributions and stuff like that. And the guy that I went through with for Norman, one of Steven's friends who kind of helped us with some of that, he said, if this guy is really good, he's your age. He said, that is such a awesome thing to have. He says, make friends and friendships with people within the business your age as well, because as you guys get older, like, you still have that connection, where let's say you have a connection with someone that's much older and they get out of the business. Now, all of a sudden you're completely fresh with someone you don't know. You know what I mean? And I was like, I didn't think about that, because it was someone who was retired, who was a script writer who'd worked for like 25 years in the industry. I was like, I just never thought of that, because I would think, oh, like, in me, sometimes, I would think almost instead of going with someone maybe a little bit younger or new, I'm like thinking, how about someone that's a little bit more a veteran of this, But it was like, obviously, you go with someone smart, who understands what he's doing, but you
sounds like a lot of age discrimination going on in your hiring processes, Joel. We're just going to move past that.
No, I would chip in on that. Go ahead.
To counter your point, though, those people that are then going to be the leaders, they've already been under people that do look down on that. So they've been shaped by those experiences. So there's only so much that when they get in power, they're going to be able to do because they're out of it. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I'm listening to an awesome audiobook on the golden age of piracy in the Bahamas. And it was crazy because...
I just see like pirate ships floating by, download on Wi-Fi, the golden age.
Download on Wi-Fi.
What on earth? We got a big one. So anyway,
reel that fish in.
So I was learning about like Blackbeard and Charles Vane and Sam Bellamy and a bunch of others. And at one point, the author mentioned, he was like, and then Sam Bellamy's like reign of terror came to an end. He was like 27 years old. I was like, oh, he had his whole pirate career and then died at 27. Or it might have been like 28 or something, but like, oh, times were a little different back then. Like they're talking about all these guys, and like you picture them like you see them in movies, like they're all in their late 30s, 40s, like grizzled old dudes. Like, no, these terrors of the seas were all like still in the bro phase these days.
Things were a little different back then.
Like, I think Sam
I
Bellamy
should know.
became, I think he was a ship captain by the time he was like 22 or 23. Like, he worked his way up from nothing to pirate captain. So it's just like, wow. Not really a person you want to look up to, but as far as it comes to maturity, he probably would have looked down on people who play video games. That's all I'm saying. And we have
I really,
anything else?
I really appreciate that title, ripping a sick midlife crisis.
Stomping our midlife waffles. That's a good one, Bryson. Anyone?
And we
anything else?
should continue this sometime and talk about
I think
more about
there's
stigma
a casual
because
conversation in here somewhere. There's
I
some
think
meat
there
on
is.
this bone.
because there's not only age, there's also gender. I mean, my daughter's actually really good at video games.
For a
Like, I don't
girl?
let her play a lot, but she's very smart. Like, you can see the wheels turning. It impresses me, not because she's a girl, but because she's young, and for her to be able to do puzzles and problem solving, is very impressive. But as she gets older, she's gonna have to come out of that. But that's another conversation. But
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I mean, because I could definitely see myself gone off the deep end of I just got sucked into only games, and I'm really,
okay.
I'm
I was
really
curious
glad.
which deep end we were going to be talking about.
I'm really
here.
glad that my parents, in a way,
got sucked in the deep
didn't
end with the
allow me
roller
to.
skates on.
I'm really glad that my parents didn't allow me to play as much, as I would maybe want to, as much as I want to think. And I remember thinking as a kid, I would go over to a lot of friends' houses that have like Segas and stuff like that, and I remember thinking, why aren't you guys playing games right now? And they're like, I'm just bored, And that puzzled me for a long time because I'm thinking, if I had this, I'd be playing it all the time. But then I kind of realized, I wonder if I had it all the time, I wouldn't play it because I know I can play it anytime. But since I didn't own one, anytime I had the chance, I would always take it up to play. But
I think
again,
that's probably closer to being the reality because,
yeah,
I mean,
hopefully that would have been a reality for me. But then again, it could have been something where I'm like always playing 24/7. I could have been that person. So I am really glad of why, that they ended up doing that. I mean, because I think I have a decent amount. Like, I understand the difference between, oh gosh, I'm going to be playing for 40 hours straight for the next, like, week after week after week. Yeah, I took a day off to play Bloodborne and Dark Souls. They're my favorite game. It's kind of a little bit of my relaxation and vacation. But I'm not going, hey, the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day playing 18 hours a day every day. And that's all I do, So I think it's just moderation.
But if you're listening to this and you ever had a problem with video games, maybe you were the proverbial neckbeard in your mom's basement, or maybe you fell away from games at a very young age because of like societal pressures or people around you thinking you shouldn't do it anymore or something. If you have an experience that relates to what we're talking about, we'd like to hear about it. Write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com and let us know, because I would be curious to hear other people's experiences, especially if you stopped playing games because you felt like you were too old or you were too grown up or too mature or whatever else. I'd be curious to hear.
Kind of pressured out of it because of your social circle.
Or maybe you just didn't want to anymore. I mean, any of those is a totally fine reason, depending on if you're okay with it. But write into us and let us know. We'd love to hear about it. But for now, we're going to talk about some news. So,
News time. Sorry, you snuck up on me.
Up first, AMD's RX 470 dropped today when we were recording the podcast. And some good news and some bad news. People have been talking about how it was going to be $150. That was the popular rumor. AMD kind of hinted at that for a while. It's not. It starts at $180, although there doesn't appear to be a reference model, so it looks like it's probably going to be only like aftermarket boards. But $180, it's about 5 to 15% slower than the RX 480. Which is about right in line with its price point. The price point's a little weird though, because it's only $20 cheaper than the base model RX 480. So it seems like they
Why
love
would
the
you
cards.
not spend the extra $20?
Well, a lot of people are going to want to get the $240 RX 480 because it comes with 8 gigs of VRAM.
Right.
So that's more of a legitimate difference. It almost makes me wonder, why didn't they just sell the RX 470 with 4 gigs and the RX 480 only with 8 gigs? But I don't know. They're trying to meet more of the market down there or something. I mean, NVIDIA doesn't have anything below $250 right now. That's a recent card. So they've got the 960 and the 950, but those are price wise, those are getting shoved down market pretty fast by all these new cards. But it's a good card. Very quiet, very cool, doesn't use a lot of power, pretty decent card. It is for sale now. I'm curious to hear about the RX 460 that's supposed to come out in I think 4 or 5 days, and they've been talking like it's going to be the $100 price point, and it's going to be it's going to be like for Dota, League of Legends, Overwatch. Like it's a card for people who are like professional gamers or who stream or something like that. It's not a card for enthusiast
which card
gamers.
is this?
The RX 460. They've been
460.
hinting that it's going to be like $100 to maybe 120, something like that.
That's
But-
pretty sweet.
Yeah, we'll see. But the RX 470, I hate the anti-AMD bias that's in so many articles because people are like, well, I mean, it's a lot slower than the 1060. It's like, no kidding, it's $80 cheaper. Like, it's 30% slower and like 40% cheaper or whatever. Like or 20% slower and 40% cheaper. I think it's an awesome card in the price range. I wish it was $150. It would have been an amazing card at $150, but we'll see how all the prices and stuff shake out. Hopefully Nvidia has like a 1050 that they're going to announce soon, something like that. James, do you have a news item for us this week?
I don't, but I'm going to piggyback on the one I told Joel to talk about.
Okay, all right, we'll do Dave first then. Dave, what's going on with Fallout 4 mod support?
More bad news for PlayStation players. PS4 mods have been delayed for the second month in a row. And this is already in the back of the news back around E3 that the PS4 would only have about 900 megabytes for storage for mods compared to the Xbox One's 2 gigs and the PC's literally unlimited space for mods.
Is there a technical holdup in this, or
Bethesda has never made a game on, or but the Bethesda studio that works on Fallout and Elder Scrolls games has never made a game that works well on PlayStation hardware ever. That's
Yeah,
the whole
it's always the roughest games.
They're so similar. The
no idea.
architecture's all the same this time.
Yeah,
that's
especially
not an
this
excuse
time
this
around.
generation.
Sorry, go ahead, James.
I don't know. I don't want to
you
go.
just-
I don't want to go all conspiracy theory on this.
James is just disappointed.
What's the conspiracy theory?
Well, I mean, Microsoft did get their mods first,
I mean,
and could it be they're just not?
money under
doing
the
it
table?
because Microsoft
No,
is-
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I mean, because
What-
they've
what
sold
would
more
the technical
copies of
holdup
Fallout
be?
on PlayStation, I guarantee you.
But what
And
would the technical holdup be?
They're not good at programming for the PlayStation platform. I mean, that's always been the problem, I guess, as whether or not
But
we know what the
the
exact problem
platform
is this time.
of a cell processor versus
x86
slightly-
is a lot easier, but we still don't know. The OS might be still PlayStation enough that it's a problem. Just because the hardware is a lot more similar, who knows if they're having OS issues?
And actually, that's what Bethesda said back in June when they announced the first delay, was that two things that were causing a big holdup were when you made a mod using the creation kit, which right now uses PC textures and tries to do like an auto optimize, like an auto crush basically for the textures. It also uses PC sound files, and the PS4 natively just could not read those files. So it sounds like they're writing like a pipeline. So when you export the mods, it converts a lot of this stuff to proprietary Sony formats that are used on the PS4. Even though the architecture is the same, some of the software is unique compared to the Xbox One. Whereas when mods launched in beta on Xbox, they actually for a while used full PC textures, which caused a higher FPS drop and took up more space, but they just worked. It sounds like they're really having to work closely with Sony to get the pipeline going so that once they turn the switch, they don't have people saying, I installed one mod that added settlement objects, it's half a gig, and my game runs at 10 FPS compared to the official 20 that it runs at normally. It just sounds like there's a lot of pipeline issues with giving people essentially a development pipeline to the PS4 compared to the Xbox One.
So to flip it around and not put it on, say, Bethesda, is Sony not doing their part with developers to make certain things happen, such as Rocket League having cross-play functionality between every system ready to go, and them just
I think
not.
that's Sony protecting their market share on that one, that particular reason.
Bethesda's 100% basically at this point laying it out on Sony's lap. They said, a month ago, the delays because we're having issues converting sound and textures and stuff like that for PS4. Their latest tweet on the 1st of August says, "We're working with Sony on the Fallout 4 mod support for PS4. The process is still under evaluation. As soon as we learn more, we will share news." So it sounds like there is stuff on Sony's end that's being worked out still.
So I think that Microsoft's in a position, though, as a developer, to be as hospitable to developers as much as possible because of, the past hardware limitations that they've had compared to the PS4. Just being a little underpowered compared to it. And, then the PS4 taking off sales-wise, I think as a company, it was probably important for them to have good relationships with their developers. And just saying, whatever you need. Not that it's necessarily always panned out as far as performance in the game, but we got those mods pretty quick.
They always said that it was coming to Xbox first, right? I think the only thing I would say is we honestly have no idea. I mean, we don't know. I mean, it sounds like it's easier to develop for both consoles and PS4 as well. It certainly looks like that, but I don't know how to develop.
Right.
I think any of you guys know how to develop actually games,
No, but the people that develop the games
and we know that
develop,
engine is super complicated, and
yeah.
and
I
they've
think
been patching it together for years. So there might be issues stemming back to the PS3 days that they didn't know were going to be a problem until after they'd already announced these mods were coming out.
And I can imagine this: they probably started work on the Xbox One first and assumed that it would maybe be similar on the PS4, but then when they got to it secondary, it became, dang it, this is a little bit harder, more complicated than we thought. We don't know. I mean, I would love to be able to find out exactly what is going on, just for curiosity's sake. I love knowing, how do they actually get it working on the machines and this, But we have no idea. We don't know. I mean, how many games are on Sony's network? You know what I mean? Compared to Steam, where Steam does literally jack shit with any games. You know what I mean? They don't do anything. It's just, good luck. Put your game on there and have fun. No, nothing else.
Well, we haven't exactly talked highly about them either on here.
No, I know that. But I'm just saying, I'd say comparatively, I think PS4 helps other developers a lot more. I just don't know, we don't know how much they're doing, what's going on, and,
But they seem to help indie developers that are more focused on their console.
Yeah, they
than
do.
across the board developers that make games for all 3, sometimes 4 consoles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a little bit wise to mean.
They're not consoles, but platforms.
If they're going to be spending some money, that they would spend it for the ones that are more focusing to be exclusives or more Sony based or something like that. But I mean, honestly, who knows? Who knows how much they can do? Because it would be stupid for Sony to be like, let's not help you. We'll just, but that would bring in more people playing on the console. So I doubt they're actively stopping it. I think it. What news are they going to say if they other than crap, we're having a really hard time, I don't know if we can make it. That just makes their console sound dumber.
I think Joel's actually on the right track here. I think because PS4 mods were the second stage of this whole rollout, or third stage actually, because they put out the PC mod backend on Bethesda.net that no one's using first, technically. Let's not forget too that originally they said that mods will be on consoles within a few months of launch, and they didn't show up for Xbox One until the beginning of May or mid-May. So there was a pretty large delay. It's just that they hadn't set any dates yet originally for Xbox One. So it was 6 months after launch, Xbox One mods. And then they felt pretty confident, it seems like, that PS4 would be a similar process, and it sounds like it just hasn't been, and there's more back-end work to do. But, yep, delayed again, no ETA.
I can handle waiting because I'm not looking for any mods except for one. All the constructions to stuff go magically into the cloud.
Joel wants the backpack with 99999 carry weight.
That's a limit. That's a limit, Dave. I don't like limits. It might be a really high limit, but it's still a limit.
Now, Joel, what's going on with Nintendo this week?
Okay, well, before I rage, I will say that this is all just conjecture and rumor. Okay, so still, Nintendo could still come out with something amazing and just blow my pants off, socks off.
Are you gonna put your pants on first, Joel?
Nintendo is not worried or aiming for blowing your pants off. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, whatever.
That's what
My
VR's
pants are,
for.
my pants are loosely put on. They're straw pants. Okay, so a rumor that some said. Okay, I'll just read it. It's a nice bit of kit, a bit of a novelty, but a good one, said one executive that has got his hands on with the machine. It won't appeal to PS4 fans. Nintendo seems set on trying to upgrade smartphone gamers. That's going to be a big job for the marketing department. As they're talking about the NX.
Mm-hmm.
Before I let the rage out, there's been a lot of rumors and a lot of people talking articles about what the NX is going to be, and there's an interesting idea of, okay, instead of just directly competing with Sony and Xbox, which I think, Sony and Xbox are doing a pretty good job, and I think Sony right now is winning a little bit in the console. They're doing really well, okay? I think, how do you make another console that's going to be phenomenal to yet have a third one in that, to compete against them? I can understand the idea of, all right, maybe they want to try to be the big fish in a small pond rather than the small fish in a big pond with with Microsoft and Sony. I still think they could probably come out with something, but Nintendo right now, I don't think is at all focused on third party and like legitimately, not just third party DS games, but third party every game. But this just pissed me off so much because if it is true, like they really have no idea what they're doing, and it makes me angry and sad because it's the Titanic, just like they have no idea. Unless this leads to Zelda on PS4, I'll be happy about that.
I think you're drawing a very big line between two very far dots.
I'm saying in the way future, like if this crumbles, because I don't think they can afford to have another 3 to 4 years of just decline again. Their handheld console is doing well, but I don't think. If it's another Wii U, they're kind of screwed because that's another probably 3 to 4 years they have to like somehow come up with a new console really fast, and I don't know if they're going to be able to handle another 3 to 4 years of that.
Right.
So I know they have a lot of money. It's not like they don't have enough money, but that is like seriously bad. So I don't know what the crap they're doing, and I'm like, what the heck?
Well, the thing that I don't think is going to be possible for this plan is that we have a cell phone gaming market because cell phones are something that pretty much every responsible adult and even some kids now have at their disposal at any given time. You take your phone with you now. That's become a part of our society, is having a cell phone, having a smartphone. And so making a game that's interesting on something you already have makes sense. Causing people to go out and buy a new piece of hardware just for those things, I think, is where they're going to lose people. If it's any more than $100, I mean, some people will go out and buy like Beats by Dr. Dre little sound pills that are way overpriced, and people do buy expensive crap that doesn't need to be that expensive. But when I think when it comes to video games, I don't think they're going to do it. If they're not already somewhat captured as a market, I don't think making something that's somewhat similar to their cell phone is going to be that much different, unless it's literally a cell phone.
Like with all things Nintendo, I think the only way we can end this is we don't know. I don't know.
But get ready for disappointment.
It'd be awesome if all this is like a red herring. Like they have a secret development group that are making this weird thing that they know people are going to be pissed at. And all of a sudden they're just going to release 8K textures, bitches. All a TV, it expands, holographic.
What kind of specs would that system have, Joel?
I think for 8K,
Oh boy.
it would need to be, I think it would need to be at least 2 of Dave's computers powered.
That's cheating. So it's 2 times what, Joel?
It's 2.
You gotta we need specs, Joel. I need some specs.
A hexacores.
Why don't you just get a 12 core?
Well, I don't know if that can be made yet, so I think they would have to stuff 2 CPUs or something into it.
Okay, is that
That's how
even
they do it.
possible?
They stuff 2 in, yeah?
Well, if Nintendo's making it, yeah, it's
Oh,
possible.
I don't even
then.
know if you can put
Yeah.
2 CPUs in something.
Well, they're gonna make it happen. 2 CPUs in it, and then each CPU is gonna have digital CPUs that are like extra.
Joel explains hyper-threading.
I actually didn't know what he was
Douching.
trying to say for a second. I was like, what is a digital, like, are there analog CPUs that people still
Joel,
use?
I was just giving you a hard time. Apple used to make Mac Pros with 2 CPUs in them. Back in the Power PC days, like you could get, and there's plenty of servers that have dual CPUs. Dave's computer at work can be configured with 2 CPUs if you order it that way. That's actually, for servers, that's a pretty common thing. For a gaming platform, makes no sense. No sense at all. But it's Nintendo, so no sense at all is like right where they live. So,
Well, I wanted Joel to do the specs because we're always talking, and Joel will be like, "Dude, what if Nintendo just like screw it? We're just gonna make something with like 16
Like
gigs of
legit,
RAM,
like it'll be legit.
like legit. It's gonna be legit, and it's gonna play like 40K tech. Like he always pulls out these like crazy numbers. But,
4K
like,
is not crazy.
16 gigs of RAM, so half of what I have right now.
And I'm just joking.
Yeah,
but
I know,
it
but
would be so amazing if like Nintendo out of nowhere did that.
It
And
would.
It was just like, what the heck? You know, like that would just be so cool
It
because
comes in-
I am a Nintendo fan. Like,
it's on sale for $200, comes in a cardboard box, like that's everything's mounted to.
but like, I don't know. Like when I read that, I was thinking, did they not realize that? Okay, I mean, I don't know about you, James, but remember when we played on the NES and there was regular Mario games for kids, and then man, I kind of remember games like Contra and like bloody games and other stuff. That can't exist anymore. It's only got to be kids games. That's the only people that play Nintendo. I just like, did they not understand at all the people that enjoy Nintendo? I just freaking.
So anyway,
which is a shame because adults still do like those games.
in weird, unexpected news, Microsoft did something good this week with Windows 10. They made a common sense, nice change that they should have done a long time ago, but at the same time didn't really announce and were under no pressure to do. And they just decided to do something that was pro-consumer, and like it really feels like the other shoe's going to drop here. But so before, when you took your Windows 10 free upgrade or like you activated your Windows license, it activates based on the hardware in your computer. So you can actually reinstall Windows and you don't even need to put in your serial number. It would just see that it was your computer again based on your hardware and it would automatically activate.
Heaven
Obviously,
forbid if you replace something.
that's problematic because if you replaced a motherboard and CPU especially, sometimes people report it, and it's hard to confirm this stuff, but people would report as little as replacing a graphics card could cause some issues. But motherboard and CPU is like the definites. It can, kind of void your activation. Well, now Microsoft has given you the option in their anniversary update. It's been a year since Windows 10 came out. And you can now tie your Windows key to your Microsoft account, which makes so much sense because now you would just sign into your new computer with your Microsoft account and then you could just pick, okay, I want to use this license to activate this computer. That's such a duh thing. I can't believe it took them this long to get to it, but good for them. And actually, I wanted to commend the Microsoft account thing a little bit. I went to record Quantum Break for the Potato Masher video, and it did perfectly sync my progress up, my settings, everything. Like, I didn't even have to think about it. I just turned the Xbox on and booted it up, and like I was right where I left off. Everything was exactly the same. I'm actually kind of excited for the Universal Windows platform, like that part of the
That's cool.
experience. It worked really, really well. But good job, Microsoft. We crap on them enough. We should definitely highlight when they do something that's pretty awesome, because that was pretty awesome. But now we're going to talk about what we played this week in the segment called What Are You Playing This Week? So, James, what are you playing this week?
This poor document's all over the place.
If the adult in the group would fix it because he knows how to use Google Sheets, Google Docs, whatever this is.
Use that adult stuff and fix the tax documents. I mean, the podcast documents.
So I've been playing The Fall. I think, Jeremiah, you own it, or I think you do. In your Steam, you probably got it as part of a key for something else.
Is it a
It's-
indie game?
Yeah, it's
Never
it's
heard of
really
it.
cool. It's a
Wait, are you
2D.
playing it off my
It's-
account?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I was looking at people who own it.
Oh, okay.
It's a 2D game, so that's probably why you don't play it.
Perfect.
It's really interesting. You have to figure out puzzles basically.
Oh yeah, there it is.
It's pretty cool. it's a little more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But it's definitely interesting. In the same vein, I decided to play Flashback, which is a game made in the 90s for the Sega Genesis that has been redone for the PC. It looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also been fun. It's the same kind of thing where you're kind of going back and forth, solving a puzzle. And what else? I traded in a bunch of crap at GameStop. I did actually save. I did get my 10%.
Nice.
Because I did actually use my Power Up rewards card. And picked up Uncharted 4 and Far Cry Primal.
Nice.
And I started playing Far Cry Primal. I'm actually enjoying that. I'm not enjoying it as much as a Far Cry game as I am a survival game that works. Like, there's so many survival games that just, it's okay, but this is, it's a AAA game, so I'm just kind of pretending like I'm playing a DayZ type game.
Yeah. I've been playing Rise. I was talking about that last week. I definitely hit the limit where Rise was no longer that fun, and I was just running around hacking the same enemy up. I'm
How many hours was that into it?
about 2.5 hours in. And I'm basically fighting the evil barbarian clone army at this point. But yeah, it was a decent amount of fun. For $5 on PC, it's worth picking up if you have a decent rig just to look at how pretty it is. Like, actually, not even a decent rig. It runs on pretty low-end rigs. Video coming soon. But yeah, it's an hour or two of fun, definitely. But that's about it. And then Squad, been playing some of that with some of the crew. I'm enjoying Squad. It's kind of like Arma without the clunkiness. Now it doesn't have
it's Arma PvP.
Right, it doesn't have all the depth that Arma has, but it's not clunky, and that's pretty cool. Now there are a couple issues I have with it. There's people wear camo in the game, and that's well and good. But I think from a gameplay perspective, they don't do enough to differentiate players from their surroundings in a way that the human eye is able to pick out. Like there's things that are realistic, and there's things you have to cheat in a game a little bit because you don't have all your senses, because you have a limited field of view. You don't have your sense of smell. You can't, like, your just sensory perception that's very finely tuned in real life can't do as much for you in a game. So I think it's important that developers cheat a little bit to make games fun. And in Squad, there's definitely, like, sometimes people will be close enough to you that you'd be able to recognize who it was if it was a real person, and you can't see them, like, standing in front of a tree or something just because they blend in so much. Like, I guess maybe people who really like Squad will tell me I'm just not good at the game, and that's possible, but it feels like they need to do a little bit more with that. Also, the scopes, it's kind of odd. You can't see anything down the scopes. Like, I hold up the red dot, and it's like I'm holding a gun, like, as far out in front of me as I possibly can. I was looking the other day, I was like, I can't hit this guy. He's like 150 yards away. I was like, wait a second. I have a 4K monitor. I just leaned all the way into the screen. I was like...
There's the neck.
How did you forget you had a 4K screen? You remind us like every week.
I know, that was the joke. I was trying to bring it up again. I'm sorry. But but Squad's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Matches take a long time. They take about an hour. And there's mixed experiences. You're playing with people online, like Shane mentioned in chat. I ended up being the squad leader for the second game because I created a squad, so it kind of promotes you to the front. And since I was the first person to create a squad, our squad filled up really fast with a lot of people who felt like directions should go a bit differently. And in typical online game fashion, people want things to run as efficiently as a real military squad, but there's no consequences, so people wander off if they feel like it. They don't follow orders if they feel like it. They interrupt you if they feel like it. So, like, I think I would really enjoy it if I was playing with a squad of all people I knew and we could actually cooperate. Online, it was somewhat fun. People communicate a lot better than they do in many multiplayer games. And the radio, Arma should just rip off this radio. I do not care for the hacked-in, modded Arma radio systems. In Squad, you want to talk to the squad leaders, you hit one key. You want to talk to your squad, you hit another key. Talk to just people in the vicinity around you, hit another key. After like 10 minutes of learning the keys, it's super easy, it's intuitive, they have the radio squawk sounds, and there's none of this Arma nonsense with TFR and stuff. So
If you want everyone to talk over each other at the same time because they can't hear the different channels, that also works great.
no, if you're in your squad, you're automatically on your squad channel. Only the squad leaders can use the squad leader radio and talk to each other.
There's a lot of squawking.
Well, that's because you're playing with scrubs online. I mean, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then Uncharted 3, we beat Uncharted 2. My wife and I are playing through Uncharted 3. It's better than Uncharted 2. When I first played through them, I thought Uncharted 2 was the best one, and that's like the common opinion is that Uncharted 2 is the best one until Uncharted 4 came out. I'm liking Uncharted 3 more. Uncharted 2 is great, but I'm definitely enjoying Uncharted 3 more. It feels like there's a lot more variation in the stuff you're doing, and the story I think is a little more interesting. And then the last thing, because you guys are going to make fun of me for spending 20 minutes talking about what I'm playing this week again, I beat The Witcher 3.
Blood and Wine?
Yep. I did it.
Was everything you hoped for, Jeremiah?
No spoilers.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not gonna spoil anything. I'm gonna make a review for my channel. I don't really do game reviews in that way, but I'm gonna have to make a review. I mean, Dave, you understand what I can't even put into words right now. I just feel like Debbie understands. She beat it too. It's an incredible experience. I mean, the ending was almost like it was a relief. The ending wasn't some massive epic ending either. It was really what I wanted after over a year of playing this game, after like 14 months of playing this game, after 8 years of spending a lot of time in the Witcher universe from the time I got the first game. It's a weird feeling.
You're a book reader. You
I've read
gotta
all the
hold
books.
that out there.
That's true. Played all the games, read all the books. It's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling to have finished it. I think I'll go back at some point and and play more. I didn't finish every quest. I didn't do everything. I played until I just felt like it was time. And then it just felt like this is the right time. This is the natural progression. It needs to happen now. And man, that game is like, it's ridiculous when I think back. On a day-to-day basis, it's a good game. When I think back about like, oh, this was that game too, and this was that game, I think this was the series. This also happened in the series. Like, this is this whole saga, and you're just thinking about it, it's like, man, it's incredible. It's on a different level. If you like fantasy stuff, if you don't like fantasy stuff, you'll probably hate it. But I'm so glad CD Projekt Red made that game, and I'm so glad I got to play it, and I know there'll probably be a game I like more than The Witcher 3 someday. That's just how it'll go. I'm still pretty young, but that game was nuts. I loved it.
Dave, you have to make sure you do a video camera and record you finishing Witcher for the final time.
I need to have the
There's
face
no such
cam
thing as
ready.
the final time.
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
Well, me and Dave, we talked about this before actually but anyways,
Maybe
whenever
Dave
you're
can
like
start playing
finished-
Mass Effect if he ever finishes.
Dave,
My
what
heart's
have you
already
been
taken
playing?
by Geralt. Let me get my doc tab back open here. Let's take a look. Far Harbor played some more this week. Finally got past that stupid puzzle section. I just took a break for 2 weeks. That puzzle section really annoyed me. Still enjoying it. I was telling Jeremiah a few nights ago, though, that I think I'm going to look for a balance mod now because I just hit level 100. And on very hard, just hard. I took it down from very hard. Enemies still just tank damage. And it's not difficult. It's just long. Like, I'll have fights against mobs that's basically me running in a circle reloading for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I actually just found a damage modification mod from a guy who's a big Arma fan who basically cranked all the damage values up. So you're just as open to dying suddenly as anyone else. But for a character like me where I sneak a lot, I have to be careful not to make it OP, doing all the surprise attacks and stuff like that. But for just straight up like gunfights and fighting off monsters, instead of constantly just reloading and sprinting in a circle, all the reviewers of the mod are saying, like, if you get hit a couple times, you're going to die. And I'm just looking for that more intense feeling from, you remember, Joel, like back in the beginning of the game, like levels like up to maybe 15 or 20, where like it almost felt like a little bit of a survival game. Like, I still have Shadowplay clips of me sprinting from Mirelurks and like hiding on top of cars, like trying to like glitch, like they can't get to me because I'm on top of the car because I'm so scared of dying to just simple enemies. I think I'm looking for that
also
kind of
leveled
experience.
yourself up like way beyond where you are at story levels missions because you're like level 90 something, right?
No, 100 as of the last episode.
Oh man, yeah.
But it's one of those things like
Yeah.
I have 700 stim packs, and I have enough armor where I can take 7 or 8 hits from a boss. It's not difficult. It's just tedious a little bit now. Anyway, I'm just looking for a bit of tweaking to that. I'm back into settlement building. Hardcore, working on a couple of builds at the same time again. After taking a lot of time this summer to do modding stuff, it's nice to just get right back in there and just explore the settlement system again. I've also been playing Squad. It's less clunky than Arma. I think the map, the movement, the amount of controls, it's still pretty Arma-like, I think. Every time that I play, I spend like 10 minutes trying to read through all the controls again. I should probably play it more often. That would probably help. That game has beautiful particle effects, though. The terrains, you can tell it's an alpha. Like, some of the textures are, kind of flat. The lighting's a work in progress. But then, like, a grenade goes off, and it has, like, 67 different layers of dust and sparks and, like, ricocheting debris. It looks like CGI particle effects, thanks to the Unreal Engine. It actually, to me, kind of shocks me a little bit, because the rest of the game is still very alpha, but the particles just look wild. And looking at the vehicle previews for the vehicle patches coming out soon, all the cannon fire and shells going off, it's like movie quality stuff. It's pretty wild to see. Been playing a bit of Rocket League with Shane and crew again. Been nice to get back into that after being so busy this summer. And had a thought, actually playing some Witcher Blood and Wine just last night, I think. In the main quest, I came across a just big mob fight. It was like me and a bunch of friendlies, probably I'd say 10 or so friendlies, versus a mob of like 20 bandits. And I was telling Jeremiah today, it was more fun and intense than any mob fight in any Assassin's Creed game I've played before. To be fair, I've only played 3 of them, and only the first one ever really clicked with me, so I'm not a big Assassin's Creed fan in the first place, but just the intensity of the fight, I went back and watched the footage afterwards, and I was like, there was so much stuff going on around me in the fight that was totally dynamic that I never noticed. Just individual fights happening, finishing moves, people getting hit, knocked back, explosions from bombs. It was just a really wild-looking melee. And looking back at the footage, I was just like, this is nice. This is intense. So I was so focused on just winning my part of the fight that I almost didn't notice how cool the fight itself, was. But I can't imagine how the ending is going to be. I think Joel's right. I gotta
just record it for me. I would love to see that. I want to watch you cry.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to. I'm still very happy that for my kind of Witcher review, why The Witcher 3 is the best game I ever played video last year, back in November, I went back and I had recorded commentary an hour after I beat it. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. My plan was to use that commentary as like an outline and then like re-record it, not half asleep. But listening back to that commentary, I'm like, nah, like it's like honest. Like you can tell like how much the game meant to me. So I just used the original recording. I'm really glad that I did that. And I think I'll do the same thing for this. I'm doing a Let's Play of the whole game. So I'll obviously have an episode where I am recording the final parts of the game. But I think I'm going to go ahead and immediately after that record my final thoughts, because it's been quite a ride.
I haven't played much of anything. I literally can't. Not much of anything. John and I, we both have Resident Evil 5. We're going to try to play co-op through, but we haven't gotten a chance yet. But I have done a lot of reading. The newest Harry Potter, or the Harry Potter stage, script
I
came
hope
out.
that's not taken away from your time from reading other materials.
No, I've read more, so I do have an update.
We're
on
getting
that,
to that. We're getting to that. Oh, that's
But
coming.
I've read. I'm like more than halfway through that, and I also got a book from one of my favorite authors that I'm also friends with. It's called Summer House Land, and it's very, very good. It's nice to be able to read his writing again. So yeah, I've actually been reading like a lot this week, so that's been fun. Yeah,
Cool. It's now time for 90 Seconds of Joel, a part of the podcast where Joel catches us up on that sweet, sweet book, Chimera.
Okay, so I'm now on page 39. I'm on chapter 4 or 5, I think, or right about to start chapter 5.
These are really short chapters.
No, there's literally my friend Eric looked, he was just perusing through the book because he's like, what is this? He like flipped towards the end and there's like a chapter that's literally 1 page. And the best, he's like, can I spoil something for you? I was like, sure, I don't care. He goes, the end line before one chapter says, I wonder if they're going to be over there. End chapter, next chapter. They were over there. Like, well, that was a quick turnaround.
Joel, you could tell that like they stopped writing for the night and like just continued right in the next day, like with the next chapter, and just never looked back.
Or they're like, oh shoot, we need a chapter break. This paragraph's super done right here, so why don't we just split it?
It's so funny because it's like, do you think they'll make it? Chapter 5. They made it. I'm like, oh, well, that was a quick release.
Sweating on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, the line, or I guess
that's
the
like
sentence.
that's like Netflix. That's like Netflix when you have like the commercial break. Normally for TV, it's like, oh man, what's gonna happen after the commercial break? But like on Netflix, it's like literally just a second later because there's no commercial break.
Yeah.
Like
It's like, all right, thank you.
That was a nice dance.
Thanks. The sentence today from that I read recently is a character named Flander says, oh no, sorry, he doesn't say it, but what he does is says the sentence is, he slowly slipped his skin thins off.
What are skin thins?
Skin thins are what people who are rich have these wires embedded into their bodies all over so that essentially you can feel VR. So you can be in VR. So people who didn't grow up in, like, were very young when that's old technology started, they have to wear these other vests or things on. And so, yeah, but just skin thins. So the funniest thing about this book so far is the fact that it starts explaining stuff you have no idea about. And it's not like, it doesn't seem like in a good book where, okay, even for like Harry Potter example, that, you know, in the first couple chapters, Hagrid will mention, we need to go to Gringotts, you know, and you're kind of like, Gringotts Bank or something, you know, and then you're like, okay, like, oh, I'm excited to learn more about that. Like, it seems like, oh, I'll learn something about it. But this will, like, it will side trail, like, hey, I'm sure you want to know all this detail. And you're like, no, I don't care. I know this will literally not relate to anything else. And yep, it won't. And it's just like, it's so frustrating. Or
They're building a universe, Joel.
But it will give a detail in a way that it doesn't add anything at all, or like even tell you anything. It would be like saying, okay, hey, so I had an apple today. Well, the guy said it wasn't very good, but and I appreciate what he says. But anyways, the apple was really good. You're like, what guy? Who? What? Like, it's just enough information that something happened, but you don't know what it is, but they expect you to really care about it. You're like, but you didn't tell me anything about it. So right now, this guy shows up in Jewel, the main character's room, like just suddenly appears as like a cat or something. And then she pulls the VR off and he's like, don't be surprised. I could have easily hacked through your house software or whatever. And she's like really pissed at this person. And then immediately is like, oh, whatever, here, sit down. Like, we'll just chat like the second later. And I'm just like, freaking F. But then the last little bit is the next chapter. I think it was chapter 4. All of a sudden things changed. And I was like, what the heck is going on? It's as if the writer died and then someone else just took over. And I'm like, okay, this chapter 4, it's not like it's good, but it's like, all right, the sentences are regular, like they're normal. You know, like it's just like, this kind of reads like a book now. Like it's so weird. So I'm expecting chapter 5 to go right back into where it came. I don't know. It's so weird, man.
It's like the Norman script. Could you tell that
what
the scene directions for Norman when so I guess Steven getting shot, but someone else got
talking
shot.
About the yeah. I wrote it in a wrong way, but it was supposed to be like he gets hurt, and so he's like spazzing and like, you know, like flinching, I guess, or whatever from the pain. Like, but I wrote, he's never gonna get something hurt, and he starts jerking and
Flinging the blood off of him.
flinging the blood off.
He starts jerking and flinging.
God, I remember when I read that, I was like, I died laughing. We were on Skype at the time.
And we all joke the Norman script is not bad. There's just there's
There were
parts
just
where
those
I
little,
wot
there
it
were
for
just those
myself.
little, there were
Yeah.
just those little gems in there.
Little
they
nuggets,
weren't meant
little-
for like
Yeah.
final
Yeah.
script.
Bloody
Yeah.
nuggets.
But James is like, the what? I'm like, I just interpret it as, oh, I know what it means. Oh yeah.
I'm the director. I'm the only one who needs to know. All right, Joel, what else happened in your 90
Okay.
seconds?
Okay, so I had two things I'll do really quick. I was drinking a Frappuccino today, and I realized I'm scared of sucking from straws. And I'll tell you why.
No, please tell us.
Not really scared, but like I was thinking, I'm like,
Just kind of scared?
okay. Have you ever? Have you ever like drank like a
answer's
thick
probably no,
smoothie
whatever
or
it is.
shake that like you're sucking it down? And I'm not trying to be sexual with this. I'm just those are the words that best explain this, I guess. Okay.
Okay, all right, you're sucking
Sipping-
it
You're
down.
It's
sucking
not
that,
sipping, it's
that
sucking,
nice
okay.
milky liquid in. Go ahead.
So you're sucking it down, and then all of a sudden, like less juice, and it's just like the ice crystals, or like let's say like a piece of like chocolate or like a clump gets stuck in the straw, and you're sucking hard, but you can't get it to go up. Okay, okay. Do you know what I mean? Though I know it sounds
Yes.
freaking funny, but do you know what I mean? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll like start going like I want to see if I can suck it really hard, and then if I can like make it break and go up to the straw, okay? But then I'm like, I always get scared thinking it's just gonna like shoot so fast and like hurt my mouth. Like it's actually gonna like hit me in the back of my throat.
How
like,
are you
"Oh."
sucking, Joel?
I don't know, pretty hard, but that's why I usually
I want to suck your straw.
I push it back out. I like swirl the Frappuccino and I attempt it again. But I'm just curious, has anyone ever done that? Like where you like it gets stuck? What do you do when a clump gets stuck in your straw?
You blow it back out.
Blow it
and
back
then
down,
start
and
over.
then
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're telling me no, you've never done like just tried sucking it really hard to see if
No,
it'll come
you
up.
recessed it.
Like a-
you
like a
reset
cherry
it
gets stuck in
again.
there.
I buy a milkshake. The whole milkshake is going in my mouth. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I'll blow it back
Okay.
into the cup, stab it a bunch of times, put my
Okay.
hand back on the wheel, stab it a bunch of times. It's fine.
that's very
Okay.
rational, little psycho with emotions, but
Yeah.
very rational way to handle it.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I do it too, but you've never tried like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can pull this cherry or clump through the straw.
no. It's just not how I live, man. Not
Okay.
how I live.
I mean,
I'm just-
I enjoy mint chocolate chip milkshakes, and chocolate chips are like the perfect size where, with enough determination, you can get it through that straw. But I'm here to enjoy the milkshake, not work for the milkshake. So
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, I just thought of that. And the last thing is LaCroix surprised me today. It helped me out with something. So I was having a really, really bad headache today, like just really bad. And Bethany offered me some medicine. And it was just 2 little tiny tablets, but I have a hard time swallowing tablets. They're just whatever. It's a thing. You guys know it. Okay. Well, it was a really bad headache that I was like, I'm going to just go for it today. I'm going to try it because it was awful. So all I had was a fresh, crisp LaCroix to drink. And it was, I think it was pamplemousse actually. And
What a name.
put the tablets into my mouth, sipped on LaCroix. And for some reason, the bubbliness of LaCroix,
Mask the texture of your pills.
no, it wasn't the texture. I don't care about the taste. I could chew tablets and they could be the nastiest. It's fine.
You know, texture is different than taste, right?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like texture as in like a little bit like taste. Like, yeah. Anyways.
those are two very different things. That's not.
all right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You know,
Move on.
Joel, all I'm hearing here is that you're not very good at sucking or swallowing.
So all I would say, I literally turned around. I was like, guys, I swallowed it on my first try. I was like really surprised because the bubbles literally masked. They masked. It was like an invisibility cloak on the pills. Like I didn't even feel them go down. I was like, Bethany and John Connor like, did you check under your tongue? Or like, are they under your tongue or something like that? I was like, no, I checked. I don't know. I was surprised. I was like, I've tried it before with soda, but for some reason, I think the extra fizziness of LaCroix, I don't know why. It was like, I didn't even notice them go down my throat. So I'm going to try it again to see if that actually helps. But I was like, whoa.
You should try swallowing bigger things and see, like, at what point does LaCroix fail you? Like marbles?
yeah, like marbles.
There's certain things, though, Joel, because I actually have a hard time swallowing pills, too. There's certain drinks, though, that you do not want to do that with, because I've tried certain, I think, allergy medicines with, like, a Coke Zero, and all it did was create, like, this half a cup of, like, allergy medicine flavored foam.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
it was
I know
like,
what you mean, yeah.
It was like drinking like battery acid. It was disgusting. Yeah. Don't do that.
I think because the soda has a lot more in it, so I think since it's just sparkling water, I think it was like, hey, but yeah, like it didn't fizz or anything, like it didn't like foam up in the mouth or anything like that. But anyways, all right, I'm done.
I'm not making fun of you. I understand.
I put myself
I'm
out
making fun
there.
of you.
Joel, you put yourself out there like 35 times a podcast. I understand what you're saying. This is extremely carbonated. It'll be carbonated like even an hour after I open it. And I don't have an issue swallowing pills, but like I am surprised how fizzy this is. And I could believe that it would make it easier to swallow something. I understand what you're saying. I did not support you during that story because I was just wanted to see where it was going. But it's now time for the comment of the week before we end the show, where Dave delves deep into the comment section and brings us a gem. What do you got for us, Dave?
I was already forced to watch an ad before this video started. Yours was extremely unwelcome. It's our comment of the week.
Curse you for doing a sponsored video that you clearly stated so that you could make extra money because YouTube doesn't pay you jack. I bet that guy's a Patreon supporter too, isn't he?
Dude, he's probably my top supporter.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
He's got a platform right there.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming out. Thank you for watching the show. If you want to watch it live, we always record live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Thursday nights at youtube.com/casualshenanigans/live. If you can't watch the show live, which you should if you can, because there's lots of awesome people in the chat. Shout out to all the awesome people in the chat. You can hang out with them, have a good time, talk about the episode or whatever else you want. If you don't want to do that, you can always catch us later on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Play Podcast Music, on Dogcatcher, on iTunes, on YouTube. No Netflix deal yet. Maybe that's coming one day. We'll see. But you can also write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com. Be sure to write in. Remember what we talked about earlier. If you have ever quit playing games because of a reason other than you wanting to, we'd like to hear about it and we'd like to know. And you can tweet at us at Casual Shenaniga. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Snapchat, Casual Shenaniga, but since they added Instagram stories, I don't know if we should just move to Instagram instead. It's better in every way. There's a UI that looks like it was made by an adult. Anyway, we can talk about that off air. But thank you guys very much for coming out. Thank you for watching the podcast. Until next time, stay casual.